conference started with Rishabh talking about FOSS United journey so far. I think we want to end this with input from all of you to see like what do you think FOSS United should be doing in the future. Uh, there are some projects FOSS United is already taking up, but and put those ideas in open in front of all of you and see if you have any ideas and suggestions, and you want this to be an open discussion. Yeah.
Just, you can raise your hand, we'll bring the mic over. Yeah.
First of all, thank you very much for making us get together here. I happen to meet a lot of language enthusiasts who are interested in building language tech, and hope to see that such initiatives actually help us find and find the required support financially, technically, even from the community to take these things to next level. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Oma. I'd like to add something to what he said. So today we tend to see language computing as a whole different thing. ML, AI, NLP, all of that. But localization, language tech is deeply intertwined with the FOSS history in India. Lots of FOSS group from the early 2000s. There were language collectives. The whole Wikipedia movement, volunteers, that also permeated into the FOSS community. Lots of localization projects is exactly how people got into FOSS. So language and FOSS, especially in India, are deeply intertwined. And it's kind of, maybe it's just me, it does feel that that kind of has fizzled out, but maybe you should try and bring that back, language and FOSS.
Right, so I'll just do what I usually do best, which is providing my perspective as a college student. This is the first meetup I've attended ever, which has been an offline thing. And I'm just glad that it was this one, because the amount of knowledge sharing that's happening here, that's just going on 24/7, it's a wonderful feeling. And I learned a lot over the past 2 days. So yeah, I just wanted to say that, and also that I would love to see more students like myself come to places like this, because that's where I feel like the impact will have, that's where I feel like the movement will have the most impact. Because if you start teaching FOSS early on as a part of the de facto, and you show that it is one of the default ways to do things, then I feel like it would have a much greater impact. So if you folks would, I've spoken to Vishal already about this, about doing stuff in my college. Yeah, so more work on that would be awesome. I mean, I'm willing to volunteer and help if that's necessary.
Yeah, I think those are the words we like to hear. I'm willing to volunteer.
You want to add? No, I'm not. I didn't raise my hand. So, hi, this is Mayank from Frappe. Before I start giving my experience here, I just want to ask, like, how many people here are from a non-development background? Non-dev, yeah. So this is the feeling I like. So when I joined Frappe, or when I came to know about like what is FOSS and how it works, I thought it's all technical, right? Like all softwares and then coding and everything. I started learning that, and it was really helpful. But then my whole background is non-tech. I don't know anything about like all the languages, and I still tried to understand, volunteered here, got to learn a lot about how like hardwares are there, how softwares are working, how independent freedom and everything is offered by such products, and the community which builds up throughout the journey is what is really inspiring for me. And that's why even I listen to talks which I don't understand, everything just goes off, but it's still a learning platform. And I wanted to share something really important for me. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. This is Matti from Zerodha. So to add to what Mayank said, right? Like I'm not from a development background. Mayank isn't from a development background. Is there a plan, or does it add value for non-developers to join the community, and how do they contribute? Like, this is a question in general to anybody in the room.
Just to add with that, the diversity which I have seen the diversity which I have seen here, because FOSS is not just coding. I have seen in some slide, I don't remember whose slide was it, is FOSS is not just coding. So non-developers are there. We found a designer over here talking, willing to contribute. We saw people who are connecting communities. So all this effort, the philosophy, which is what more important, and the diversity of the talks and the people who are came here, including hardware, software, the philosophy, connecting people, that's what the event entirely is.
Thank you so much. Uh, Thanks for saying that out loud. So it's something that we are very conscious of. Uh, Rushabh and I have been, many of us have been having this intense debate over the last 1 week whether code is FOSS or community versus code, code versus community, but it's everything. Code is meaningless really without community. Rushabh, I still stick to that. And so we are very conscious of having everything. You need this whole us versus them, tech versus non-tech that we see in tech organizations, government versus community, that has to be bridged. So here, what we've attempted, we had a 12-year-old talk about their development experience. We had design talks, we had policy talks, we had folks from the government come and talk. We had all sorts of talks, right? Not just tech talks. So it's a conscious choice. When we curated the talks, we specifically wanted a healthy mix of absolutely all philosophical aspects of FOSS, and it's not just code, like you rightly pointed out. So thanks for noticing that, thanks for appreciating that.
I'll answer your question, yeah. So, yeah, you want to answer this question, yeah? Yeah, let me quickly... oh, sorry, Matti, question. Yeah. Sorry, we ignored you. Yeah. So... So yeah, while because we are talking about free and open source software, so software is primary, but like Kailash says that it can't alone exist. So I mean there are multiple layers, right? People will create software, and as a creator, I don't care what people. I don't know if Avas is here, but I had a really nice chat that he's created an open hardware tool for his daughter to play music, and it's a really cool tool, and maybe his entire house is made like his office, his house, and everything. Like there is so much creation that he's done, and then there could be other people, right, who then take those creations and evangelize it, facilitate these things, right, by organizing events, by volunteering to events, right. Like you did an amazing job, designing, right. There is so much other stuff around, documentation, right. So yeah, while software remains the essence of the community, but like you still need like a fully balanced community to really propagate it as a culture. Yeah, I don't know if that.
So I'll also try and answer Matti's question. Yes, so without humans to use software, what is the point of software? Software was invented for human problem solving. So to answer your question, we need people from all walks of life to be involved. And being involved is not just about writing code and running it or deploying services. It's about everything: design, philosophy, utility, problem solving. If you as a non-tech user are able to find a tech or philosophical solution here to a daily problem that you face, you're a member of the community. So that's what we want. It should not just be a developer code thing. It should be all-encompassing, all people from all walks forming a community. So that's the experiment.
Okay, so here's my 2 cents. Okay, so here are my 2 cents. I've been attending a lot of open source, conferences. The recent one was by Linux Foundation Open Source Summit in Austin, and here are the two things that I see are the gap to match that level. One, that open source projects are not only the code but the community, like everyone said, and they talked a lot more around the DevRel, dev advocacy, dev evangelism, and how do young folks get into it and how to pursue the career, or different facts about or different misconceptions like DevRels are equivalent to marketing or not. How is it getting into open source? So I think little bit of those aspects to add on to conferences specific to open source would be a great addition. And apart from that, I think when we have different sessions booked, and as a speaker, so I'm just mentioning this as an addition that as a speaker, it is even better to understand the audience who have registered for it or how many people have registered for it. So we used to see that in conferences like that, and it helps to prepare better. So these are my 2 cents. But yeah, I just want to say that this is really well organized. This is the best one that I've attended in India. Yeah.
Thank you. And it was fully volunteer run. An army of volunteers working day and night, enthusiasts from everywhere, students, professionals, and yeah, purely volunteer run. So happy to hear that.
I would second that. This is one of the best conferences that I have attended. I have attended a few conferences in Bombay, but I think in Bangalore, this is my first conference, and I think this was the best that I've attended, right? Because a lot of knowledge sharing happened. I got to meet a lot of people, folks who are really knowledgeable, and really thank you for all of you guys, right, for organizing this. Um, okay, so I was thinking about it on why, we have so less people from other domains interacting with this because of, I think it's because of the name. If you see, it's free open source software. Now, if I go to a designer and say, hey, you want to be a part of free open source software, and probably they might not be, thinking about it. They're like, why, right? That would be the question that would come in. And then you need to explain them, etc. So I was talking to my partner as well with regards to product development and design and how we can incorporate that into FOSS. And there were different ideas that we kind of shared, and I would kind of like try to create a document around it and maybe share it in the Telegram chat. But yeah, that is my 2 cents. Maybe because of the name, right? I don't know. That is one part. And secondly, for me personally, from a very personal standpoint of view, this has been a problem that discoverability of or maybe even starting with a problem statement, right? That I have XYZ problem statement and I need to come up with a solution, but then I try to Google and go to GitHub and figure out, oh, there are these solutions which are already available, so I will not try to create, right? So first principle, I think, changes that quite a lot. But again, this has stopped me from working towards the project. But I believe that discoverability is a problem, and one solution to that would be, acknowledging that a particular piece of software is part of FOSS. I think that would help, because if we have that registry in place, we can kind of build different tags and probably create tags for even non tech or non-engineering background as well, right? Like for example,
So because you specifically said acknowledge, I think Rishabh, we should introduce FOSS Pledge, the FOSS Pledge idea that we've come up with. Why don't you do it, please?
Yeah, so one of the initiatives that we are planning to promote is this FOSS pledge that for companies to come forward, and we have a set of rules that people acknowledge that they use FOSS, and then they will do the best in their ability to promote it, right? And this is a thing we'll start pushing out from now. And I was just thinking about FOSS pledge. It needs a good design. I mean, it just looks too plain, right? I mean, it should be like whoever will. Everybody, like whoever wants to contribute, right? Make a really nice design for a FOSS pledge that companies can use as a badge, and make it. So yeah, and we would invite, like every if you're part of an organization, pitch to your organization that let's take the FOSS pledge. Yeah, I can't remember the clauses offhand, but yeah.
So it's a soft way of easing people into accountability. So there's a simple FOSS pledge. There are really simple, soft rules. And you commit to it. Let's say you come on the FOSS pledge website. You commit as a signatory to the company saying, this organization, as organization ABC, we will commit to the FOSS pledge. And it has points like, we will openly talk about our use of FOSS, which is a big deal. Many dozens, if not hundreds of our large unicorns, which are all built on FOSS, never talk about FOSS. We don't even know the stacks they run. They don't acknowledge. So acknowledgement is a big deal. So by publicly signing the pledge, you're kind of forced to acknowledge. Then there are other rules that nudge organizations towards things like encouraging their developers to participate in FOSS activities. These are all really simple acts of evangelism. And the idea is that once you sign it publicly and your logo and name is there, you'll maybe hold yourself accountable. And there are a couple of those other rules. There's no money involved. We don't say that you have to fund all FOSS projects that you use. We don't say any of those things. It's just a small first step. We will support, we'll encourage our developers to participate. We'll openly acknowledge the use of a FOSS and talk about it. And that's it. That's the idea of a FOSS pledge, and it's meant for technology organizations to sign. And just a small little idea we had.
Let people come forward. Let's do that. Just come forward if you want to speak.
Hi, it's nice seeing you all. And first of all, I'll start thanking with Zerodha. And I've been following Zerodha for like 1.5 years, like started getting into investment and started knowing the story and the entire development history about it. So I have done my BCA project, like I'm from developer background, but I left coding because I'm much more interested in designing. And I believe IndiaFOSS also need much more. When I attended the session, right, I see 90% of people who attended the session are mostly developer, and I see very less people who are into designing. But when it comes to building any product or any service, we need both the people to execute any product, right? So I believe for FOSS, we will be needing more designers, and I would like to contribute myself as well to whatever I can do with IndiaFOSS, right? And I've been, since like I said, I've been following Zerodha, right? So of course you all know about Nitin and Nikhil. So I also watch their interview, which are hosted by Raj Sharmani and Beer Biceps. So I've been watching those. Like there is one very question, right? So the interview was around 1 hour long. So it's completely up to you. Whether would you rather watch the interview 1 hour long, or would you rather go to Netflix and watch some series or episode? So I would rather choose which will benefit me, right? So more into like what I wanted to share, my end of the thought is like philosophy. And one philosophy what I learned from Nitin is whatever decision or like whatever product they are making, they make peace with it first. Like he think the worst case scenario he can face, and then make peace with that. And how do I say it? Like even when there will be any problem he will be facing, he knows that this is the problem that he'll be facing. So he already set a mentality that, okay, this is what going to happen. So for me, my kind of philosophy is sharing my knowledge with the world and learning to find my voice. Because I recently changed my profession from developer to designer, right? So I'm like completely clueless. What should I do? So like I'm sharing my knowledge with the world and learning to find my voice. So I believe everybody should have their own philosophy and they should stand by their name. And like my name says, Chand, so I like to stand up with my name. So I believe when you leave this place, you will have a philosophy in your head and live up with that. So yeah, thank you, and thank you, Kailash. And yeah, one more thing, like there are very, how do I say, great team behind Zerodha, because once how do I say it? Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a part of it. Yeah, it's part of it. Yeah, so there are more other like Sensible, Learn app, and all the varsity. So there are so many products. And so what I'm trying to say is IndiaFOSS also will be like one of the great product what Zerodha started. So I believe India has much more better. IndiaFOSS has a better.
Cool, yeah.
With you a little bit. People from Zerodha volunteer, people from Frappe volunteer. This has got nothing to do with Zerodha.
No, but Zerodha is the killer app for FOSS. That is what you have to say. Like, you need one killer app, right? That spreads. And I think we should acknowledge, it's a great point. Like, if people get introduced to FOSS through Zerodha, I think that's very legit. And you always need a killer app that takes a technology to the world, right? So I think in that way it's great. And thanks for taking the courage and speaking up. No, it's really awesome.
Yeah, thank you for that note. Thank you.
Hi all, I'm pretty nervous as fuck, but IndiaFOSS was such a holistic, was really holistic. And adding to like your point with the languages, you said like at least like in India, I don't think it's like in India, but as per like with the ESR, who's the guy? Eric Raymond, right? The hacker people from Hackathon, they're like well associated with their language, they respect their language, and they build stuff for their like language. Good to really see the foundations like Sanchaya.org is amazing. I wouldn't have like find this Sanchaya.org if not like the FOSS United Telegram. Even though I reside here and live, I mean, all my life, but that's pretty awesome. And regarding to like the open source thing, yeah, basically, I mean, I really don't maintain open source whatnot. It's like, I don't take the responsibility of accepting your request. Like, yeah, sure, you can take my code, do whatever you want, but don't bother me, is what I think like Rishabh was saying. And yeah, so you don't really need to have experience with like tech or writing code or whatnot. I mean, this is my thing. You come here and you, whatever the background you have, you support with what you can. And that's how Thrive at its best. And that's it, and really thanks, and yeah, that's it.
Absolutely, it's not just about code, many ways to participate.
Hi. So before coming to IndiaFOSS, if someone asked me if can non-developers be a part of the same community, I would say it's an idea that I would intuitively agree to. But because I hadn't really been to such a conference, would I say that they are as integral to the community as developers are? I would probably lie there to be just not to upset the person. But after coming here, I found that a lot of people who have never really contributed to open source as developers, but when they come here, they look at the open source projects. Everyone uses Linux, and they just fit right in. And so I think after coming here, I really accept the idea that even non-developers who are just users, they are not contributing, even if they are not contributing through legal ways or as designers, they are still a very integral part of the community, just as users. So, yeah.
Good evening all. I'm from a non-developer background. I'm actually I have finished my third year in BTech Mechanical Engineering. There are 3 points that I would like to put forward in front of you. First is regarding law. Like, I'm not sure if anyone has talked about this, but version control software is an excellent application for law and the laws, rules, and judgments and amendments and so on and so forth, because it is a very good way of collating all the information that is there and putting it in a manner that's easily accessible at that point itself, rather than going to different, like there are two, first thing is PDFs themselves are available on indiacode.nic.in, but apart from that, there is also a court authorized copy, there is a government authorized copy and so on and so forth that makes life difficult. So if we could have some version control system that collates all the laws of India or of a particular organization even in one place, that would be very easy for access with respect to accessibility. The second thing is from a point of view of mechanical engineering, because I'm aspiring to be a core mechanical engineer. There are many softwares, not only in mechanical engineering, but in other fields of engineering also, where simulation is necessary. So computational fluid dynamics, finite element analysis, all of these require good, powerful software. The problem is that most people, they know only about proprietary softwares that are available. And so to talk about the open source softwares that are available for other engineering applications for other fields, that would be, because once it is open source, in fact, I can design my own algorithm if I have the knowledge. Otherwise, I can take from the community and I can run. And that also helps with respect to research. So if I have a proprietary software, I'm constrained by its constraints. But in an open source software, I can tweak the various parameters, I can tweak the various algorithms, and see what results I get from there. So that is with respect to mechanical engineering. The third thing is, and I'm not entirely sure if this has been spoken about, open source intelligence. So we have talked about cyber security, network security, and so on and so forth. But oftentimes, even if we were to live in a perfect world without those vulnerabilities, there would still be the vulnerability that would come from our own lack of education in dealing with information. How we put our information about ourselves and into the public domain, and how that contributes to open source intelligence that people can then use to track us. So I think that is also an important aspect that needs to be looked into, and maybe if you can spread the word regarding the same, then that would be also an excellent move in the right direction. Thank you.
I would like to add to the first 2 points. You talked about law as code. I think it's a very interesting point. I don't think it's as easy as it sounds, but Nemo has a repository. The person, I think, Abhay Rana, he spoke about the UPay app on FOSS, right? So he has a repository on GitHub. He put the constitution with every amendment as a Git commit. You can actually go and look at the history of how Indian constitution evolved as a Git repository. So that would be interesting to kind of look at. Second thing, you talked about FOSS in engineering. I think there are pockets of excellence around in India. People are doing interesting work on FOSS. For example, in IIT Bombay, Prabhu Ramchandran, who has a project called FOSS. It's a very interesting project. So they actually promote use of free and open source software in the academia in India. They run workshops for teachers, and I don't really know completely what all things do, but it's a very interesting project. Please check it out.
First of all, thank you FOSS United for this amazing event. Post-COVID, it's been it's like getting back what's been lost. And I'm new to Bangalore. It's just 2-3 months. So I'm from Kerala. So coming here, I was adapting to Bangalore, and standing here in this community, it feels like home, and it's been a great feeling. And
Bangalore feels like Kerala, right? With all the Malayalis. Bangalore feels like Kerala with all the Malayalis.
Like being this part of this community, it feels like it's the same feeling. I mean, in Kerala, there's a lot of technology communities, Tinker Hub and Kochiped and all those events. So I was a lot into those communities, and now post-COVID being here, yeah, the same feeling. And there's something else amazing happening here. So I've been working on product for like past 2 years. It's a long time now. We have been pivoting, and there's some freelancer. Yeah, that's too long. So basically, the past 2 years, we've been stuck at home. Only the sources were from online and all. So being here, it was an opportunity to meet with a lot of amazing people, and we got a lot of inputs and suggestions from all of them, and that is really helpful. I mean, I learned much more than what I learned in the past 2 years. So that's the power of experience sharing. So that's been very amazing. That's been very helpful. So and maybe if possible, can we meet more often, like for with small meetups and all? That'll be.
Monthly meetups.
Okay, so sorry.
Bangalore, by the way. But it has to.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm at Bangalore currently. Yeah.
What's your problem?
By the way, we are looking for leads who can manage our monthly meetups. If you are interested, we can happy to have you volunteer. Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah.
I think in the Mumbai Linux user group, we had this idea that anybody who puts up a suggestion has to, implement it. So.
Yeah. So we'd like to have you volunteer,
Yeah, sure. As a lead right now, I can.
No, that's a question mark. Yeah. Thank you.
No, now that Vishal picked up the mic, I'd like to say a thing or two about Vishal, if that's okay.
Yes.
Well, so FOSS United has one full-time person. It's an organization. It looks like an organization, but it's a loose collective with many of us part-time volunteering and coordinating on email and Telegram groups. Vishal is the sole full-time person at FOSS United. He runs everything. He coordinates absolutely everything. He's a machine, and coincidentally, he completed 2 years yesterday at FOSS United. And what I really find interesting about Vishal is that, so the other day, I didn't even know, he messaged from Ladakh because he'd gone there to meet the police IDG to show them how to use Frappe to build an open source resource management system. And then he was in Gujarat 2 weeks staying at this foundation, trying to understand their problems and suggesting open source solutions. So he travels, and at the drop of a hat, he will travel somewhere and try and evangelize FOSS. Now, that's very unique. And he's traveling again. So that's something that I always find curious and interesting. Because FOSS is about, sitting in your basement, getting on Reddit, pushing code on GitHub. But Vishal travels all over the place. So thanks, Vishal.
Another point I'd like to add about Vishal here is that we met in college, right? And during those times also, he was like evangelizing tech events. He was like running tech events and all that kind of jazz. But he's a honest person. And his main goal throughout the last 2 years, probably like as I've seen, is to grow a community, right? Because as Kailash just pointed out right now, FOSS, we perceive it to be like people in basements working on code, proper geeks, nothing else, right? This guy is probably more FOSS than them because he's building a community. And FOSS is actually all about the community. And we tend to forget about it. When we add tags and say FOSS is about software, FOSS is about hardware, FOSS is about this, FOSS is about that. But it's all about the community at the end of the day. Yeah. And probably that's why FOSS United has succeeded over the past 2 years. Because FOSS United, as Rishabh, Kailash, and Anand or even Vishal has been envisioning it, is a very community-driven, a community perspective kind of organization. It's not looking at the software or the hardware or particular projects only. It's looking at building the community. And that's what we need to keep focusing on, is what I wanted to just point out.
I just want to add one more thing, okay? I think all of you talking about as if like Vishal is only a community person, doesn't know tech. I mean, I just want to kind of clarify something on it, right? I mean, he doesn't build software and doesn't have so many Git repositories on GitHub, but I think he's quite a tech person, right? I mean, he is the one who set up for IndiaFOSS website, and most of the stuff is actually done by him, and he actually configures and sets up so many ERP Next instances for many organizations. I think it's not an easy thing, right? I mean, for example, I was setting up schedule for IndiaFOSS, and I kind of wrote some functions and set up some abstractions, and I came back the next day and I saw that it's been used like in 10 different places, right? I mean, he is really kind of looks at all of them and kind of picks up and uses in so many other places. It's writing software, just that it's not there on GitHub or not visible, right? I mean, if you look at all the Redact police and all of that, he's still writing software which is kind of hidden from all of us. I think, don't just think that he's just a community person building community away from tech. I just want to kind of clarify that. Thanks.
I'll say one last thing and we'll stop hyping Vishal. Last thing. So when Vishal first started volunteering at FOSS United, he wasn't really a developer. He had no developer experience, but he has taught himself how to build things, tweak things, tinker around with things. So when he's traveling, he's also actually evangelizing by writing actual code and building small little solutions for people. So he's slowly turning into a developer all by himself while doing all of this. So it's also possible for people to be involved in community activities and gain technical expertise. No more Vishal talk.
I was about to say that. I mean,
we are just derailing the whole. Yeah, so thank you. I mean, I don't have exact, I mean, how should I, put it? So yeah, but thank you, everybody. Of course, I talk to people, and then the people who understand, right? That's half of it. I talk to Devdutt about, oh, hey, can you help us? And then next, it's up to Devdutt to, whether he comes and then he helps, whatever time. He was in Munnar, I guess, some hill station, right? So he was helping us from there. So I just, I guess, write messages, and then it's people like you and, everybody who gets contribute in the free time, right? This is my full-time job, and for you, volunteers, who are doing part-time, you're doing it on your free time. So yeah, I understand, I'm learning code, by the way. Yeah. So yeah, I look into the codes. Either it could be Frappe's, so web templates, or a lot of other things. But yeah, it's also all of you, the conversation, especially in the public group or in the internal group that Kailash, Rushav, and everybody, does help me to understand, not just professional, but my personal life as well. So yeah, thank you. And thank you for joining us. Yeah. I couldn't get a chance to talk, in this auditorium or that one, but yeah, it's really pleasure seeing you all here after 2.5 years. Yeah, thank you.
So I would like to steer the conversation a bit towards the perception of FOSS United. Over the past couple of months, I've been staying in Bangalore. I've met a lot of people, and when I tell them about my associations with FOSS United, most of them don't know what this organization is. And if you look at the entire year, right, except for this Big Bang event, after this, the last IndiaFOSS event, after the event, most people here will take FOSS United with them, but the larger developer community is not aware of it. And a lot of it boils down to just a searchability problem. So if we could, let's say, just write more blogs on FOSS United, or let's say a lot of people who are not developers or not actively developing have kind of a perception problem that there's a lot of friction to enter to FOSS, which is kind of a myth. I remember some guy in the ERP Next community, John Clark, no technical background, but one of the largest contributors to the Discuss forum. But coming back to the original point, this perception problem can be solved if, let's say, we have something like Varsity for FOSS. Right? If I go to fossunited.org/learn, I can just learn about the history of FOSS or something like that. There are resources like choosealicense.com, which is excellent. If FOSS could just build a broader resource of this, that would be great. One other thing that is very quick to do in terms of media and takes way low effort than video is just, let's say, podcasts. So if you could just evangelize with these, it'll be the impacts of these things just grow over time because it's there on the internet. So that's just suggestions.
You're aware of the new rule, right? That whoever makes a suggestion has to implement it.
Start writing,
I don't mind.
Yeah, start writing.
The original FOSS United website, I built it.
Talking about evangelizing, right? Write a blog post and then start a podcast.
Maybe let's start a GitHub repository called Learn, and then let's just start contributing. I can create everything I have.
That's a very good rule. Sorry, you have been sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I have a question for the ladies. For example, before this, in the afternoon, Kailash and I were speaking, and for some of the sessions, for example, they were complete manuals. There was no lady representation. So what can we do to increase the representation of women? So next year, we should not have a single, panel which is a completely male-dominated. I see this as a consistent problem. For example, right now, I'm helping somebody build an advisory board, and we are really having to think hard about, where are the women leaders in technology that we can include on that advisory board. So I think it's a really hard problem, but would like to really hear from the ladies here as to what can we do to next year when we look at this room, we should be able to see more women participation. So what can we do?
Since I'm from Delhi, I would just speak out the Delhi model, make the tickets free for women.
This is not a dating club.
I think just my outside perspective, this is something that we see everywhere. The lack of women in tech is a global problem. It's slightly better in some countries, but it is a global problem. In the US, there's this whole thing about women not being in STEM. STEM is science, technology, engineering, maths, in STEM fields, and women going to softer fields like management, HR, etc. I think it's a deep-rooted societal problem, and I don't think it's possible to just have more women participate next year. Maybe slightly more, but this has to change from within. It's a very abstract thought, but really, so making spaces more inclusive, encouraging more women in tech everywhere, even in whatever possible capacities. These are the things that come up in conversations when this conversation happens. Also, when we have an opening for an engineering role, let's say we get 100 resumes, 2 maybe from women, 98 are from men. So that really is the unfortunate reality. Just my anecdotal observations.
Yeah.
Maybe the men should not answer this. Let the ladies answer this.
No, I want to add
So this has happened when I was interviewing some girls for Kiploy, and there was this girl who was in 3rd year, and there were 4 interns who were selected, and one of which was girl. And she came to me and asked that, Didi, will I get the same pay scale for the internship as the 3 other selected students? I was like shocked that, why do you think so? So she said that I have read this a lot, and there has been these things around the community saying that women are not paid well or equally to the men. So I told her my story, that nothing like that happened to me, fortunately. And we made that policy to support her thought that salaries of everyone would be open in the organization. But it is a bit, disheartening that even women thinks like this when it comes to, asking for their right. So I was glad that she could come up to me and ask that, but I don't know how many girls really think this and do not go for the opportunity. So evangelizing about that is also really important, I think.
I just, so I think for this event, we were specifically, we tried hard to, include women because, I remember this event at the ERP Next conference maybe 3-4 years ago. I don't know, people remember. So we had Pratiksha, who is like one of our really best developers, and she realized like, there are very few women at the conference, and she went up to stage. It was an incredible moment, right? She said that, this sucks, right? Why are there more women in this event? And it just fired up the situation, right? And after that talk, there was another talk, and somebody said, oh no, let the women speak. And Shreya stood up and she said, no, thank you, I don't need your patriarchy. I'll speak if I have to, right? So
I would have said the same. That's sometimes disheartening that people treat, okay, you're a women developer, you might have faced real challenges about this, or do you need any special treatment? They treat you in a different way. That's sometimes a bit weird, but I understand this problem exists, so yeah.
I want to kind of add about, I think this is a systematic problem, like there are less women and less women participate. But the more important problem is actually we are blind to it, right? I mean, the problem is there and we don't even realize, right? So I was setting up, I was helping set up a panel on I think tech education and Python in education in India or something like that, okay? We invited a professor, Sriram Krishnamurthy from the US, he does a lot of work in education, and then I was supposed to moderate the panel, and then we're almost kind of sat and we're kind of discussing about how to do the panel and all that, then suddenly he said like, wait a minute, this is a panel, there's no women in the panel, I don't want to be in this panel, right? Until that point I didn't realize that we don't have a woman on the panel, right? This is something that I was completely blind to it, okay? At that point, I kind of said, like, this is my responsibility. I'm the one sitting in the panel. And I backed out and kind of tried to look around, find someone who is working on education and all that, and kind of invite to a panel, and then kind of I stepped out to kind of give the space to do that, okay? Like you were saying that it feels like someone kind of taking a special, it doesn't feel good, but I think it's a systematic problem and someone has to do that thing to do it. And until, like you mentioned here, that the panels here don't have women, I didn't even notice. I mean, I was there and I kind of, it was a shock to me when that happened, and I did react to it and felt happy that I was able to kind of do something at that point. But after 6 months, I was in the same situation. Now I couldn't even notice until someone mentioned it. Now I think it's something that we have to be kind of conscious about these things. And like Rishabh said, we have tried hard. I think we haven't tried hard. Okay, we have tried, but I don't think it's hard enough. I think there's a lot more room that we could, lot more we could have done. I mean, I don't have a kind of solution to offer, like what can be done, but I think it's not enough. I mean, I could see, like, even when you're doing talk selection and all that, we, in the last minute, like, we saw, like, it's really bad. Let's look around and see if we can invite some good speakers that we know. I mean, we could have done it like 2 months ago, right? I mean, I think there's always, at least, like, I felt like we did a decent enough job. At least, like, I felt like at least happy we had enough speakers, but I would say we haven't really tried hard enough.
Yeah, just one quick point. I mean, I know we are in an interesting topic. I think there is also that I feel, I'm coming again from the more critical side of what, I feel this was a very sanitized event in a way, right? I mean, just talking about ERP-X cockroaches, right? They are very, I mean, there is like an allergy or like combativeness, right? I mean, so maybe, I don't know, maybe just think about it. And the realization also that the FOSS community in India is really, really very tiny. You know, it's not, so yeah, I mean, in terms of just looking back, you know, I mean, it's awesome, right? Like the kind of experiences people have had, I've had, you know, this is amazing, outstanding. But I mean, the road ahead is quite long, right? I mean, that's something we all have to realize.
I'll just add over here. So, I mean, since we are talking about evangelizing, and this topic came up, yeah, so there is this real, I mean, this is like actual, probably everyone knows this, systemic solution needs to be there, probably that's the idea. I'll just share about one organization. Their name is Hyperverge Academy. So this is one of their problem statements, and this is something that they're doing more women in tech roles, and not just women, also from tier 2, tier 3 cities, from villages, and that's what they're doing. So check it out, see their work and support them. And you know, you can, like, so they have a lot of learners who are women. They have a lot of learners who are from, let's say, tier 2, tier 3 cities or like towns. So, you know, maybe whenever if there's a next FOSS conference, if they get an invite, they would actually be extremely delighted to kind of come here and learn from everyone. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
So one thing I would add, again, ironic that it is me as a man saying that, but I had this, it's very anecdotal. I had this experience where I was interviewing a woman for, a lady for back-end role. The interview was not fruitful, but one question she asked me was, how many women are there in the team? So a lot of the problem just comes down to, you know, building the space. I think the question we are asking is wrong. We should not ask how to get more speakers on the FOSS United event. We should start by just getting at least some women participation in the FOSS United core. And that will eventually just, you know, it will take a while, but then the space is established, right? Like, this is the core problem. I think if we start at like the charity, if we begin it at home, eventually there'll be a time where we have a very rich and diverse FOSS community.
I think FOSS United Vishal is the only full-time person, and everybody else is a volunteer. So I don't think like there's anything that we can actually.
But the core, right? Like, see, even if Vishal is the only full-time, that's just technicality, right? Rishabh is here, who is constantly on the FOSS group, right? Kailash, of all people, I don't know how he makes the time, but he is there. And you are there. Everyone is there. Like, Devdutt has been recently very active on the group. The point is that if we just assume FOSS United as the legal entity, it doesn't make sense. But the moment you talk about like the broader FOSS United group, which is making all of this happen, is like the driving force, there are no women there.
No, I mean, entire Mod School is written mostly by Jannat.
You should have watched the talks yesterday. But in the interest of time, also it was quite lame hearing men's perspectives on this problem. That includes me, but that's the unfortunate reality.
I have a small billboard to share. So if you go to Indranagar, on the main road, like literally on the main road, there's a big garment shop, and there's a huge board there that says, salesman 5,000, sales girl 4,000. And like there's multiple problems with that, which like, well, first of all, the board, and then the second one, which is, it goes against my like just notion of like, I feel like women are just better at sales in general, right? Just because they have better communication skills than men. And I feel like that's, yeah, they do.
I think that may be a generalization, sorry. It varies from
still,
person to person, irrespective of gender, is what
But
I like to think.
regardless of my opinion on it, that was like such a weird billboard to come across on the main street. And I feel like your perspective was right in that it's a bigger systemic societal issue.
Sorry.
So I used to work in an organization where we actually had a terrific gender balance. We had it was a 50-50 kind of a balance. But even there, what used to happen is that the women generally were very shy to speak up. We actually had to push them to, so is it that, we are not making this a safe space for women to speak up? And it's an open question. I'm just curious to understand that. I mean, the men came forward to, speak on getting women to participate. So why? What, are we doing something wrong?
Let's have some honesty.
So I don't think it's FOSS United as a community who's not doing something. I think it's very ingrained in our culture. Happens very subconsciously. So I gave a talk yesterday. We were having breakfast at the hotel. We were about to leave. Rushabh said, "All the best. You're going to be a role model." And then, and then he said that he's heard from girls that he always pushes girls to give talk. And one of the girls once said that, why are girls always made the mascot? And I think he had good intentions behind it, but subconsciously he made that girl feel different. That shouldn't be the case. Make us feel like we're normal. It is very subconscious. So the guy who was here just now, he also, I guess, subconsciously made a comment about girls being better at communication. Again, Friday I was at Zerodha office. We were painting that banner. Someone from the team made a comment that girls are better at drawing. Don't make that assumption. It is because of these subtle things, these subtle assumptions that stop us. You might come in front of a broader platform and encourage girls, but subtly in your day-to-day life, if this continues, that's what stops us, I guess. But yeah, I think make us feel equal, that's what matters.
Anyone else want to come forward? Yeah.
Yeah, you can send pull requests and, we can, figure out. I think my perspective, I think, hey, Abbas is here. Abbas, please. Don't leave like 5 minutes. Come. Like, so I don't know any people who are there at Abbas's talk. I think I had a long chat with him, and I feel he's like the real role model, right? I mean, the guy who lives the principles, hardcore. Definitely you have to speak. But coming back on this road ahead, right? I think my views, right, personal views, not FOSS United views, but what I feel, I think communities are about equality and, how can we get participation? How can we get, I think people will have ownership of FOSS United when they have a voice in how FOSS United works and operates. So I think, if we can figure out a mechanism, governance mechanism, where, the broader interests of the community are protected, but also the people who want to be associated with FOSS United have a voice in, how FOSS United is run, I mean, we are about FOSS, so I mean, we should operate as a community, right? That's one thing, and I don't know how we are going to get there. Until now, like, we're just a very tiny startup, right? We have no idea, but I think this event and, any ideas on, people who are, regularly volunteering for this, and like how can we make this a participative community? That's one thing we can have. Yeah. You want to add something? Yeah, come forward and add. Yeah.
So I think one point which I wanted to make is I have also felt the same like in a couple of other conferences as well, that there are less women speakers, and I'm very happy that I got to know about this conference from Vishal and I was able to speak here. But I think the main which thing I have felt is that we even get less proposals from women, we get less CFPs from women. So there are speakers out there, but I feel that either they are little hesitant to submit the proposals, or I mean, maybe if we can have something where we can encourage women to, talk more in the public, maybe speak more, maybe women-only meetups or kind of something like that. Because what I feel is, even when I was reviewing some proposals in one of the conferences in the tech panel, the conference organizer told me that, we are not getting many CFPs from women, so can you do something for that? So that's where the core problem is. I feel that women don't submit the CFPs, and even I was one of those people earlier. Even I was not submitting CFPs at all. I just started submitting recently. So I think that we just need to encourage women to, at least start submitting CFPs. Even if it's rejected, it's completely fine. But we need to find more women. When people can submit it, they get encouraged, and I think that will also increase the number of women speakers and decrease this ratio which we have right now. So I think probably that is something which I wanted to just bring in.
Thank you. And coming back to the point, whoever puts a suggestion gets implemented. Please, try. I mean, help us to kind of, please. Yeah, please help us to
It's
kind
also
of
community activity.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Just to answer your question, some loose thoughts that we have. So this event was a great success. So we want to organize events like this. We also want to organize monthly meetups, general meetups. But a suggestion I heard from many people here was thematic meetups. There are certain people who are very interested in certain kinds of themes. So maybe small splinter meetups that we can help facilitate would be great. FOSS United also has this other interesting experiment that we've been running, but we're kind of shutting it down. FOSS for NGOs. From our idealistic developer perspective, that you can just give an organization some FOSS software and it'll solve their problems. Well, we weren't that naive, but we wanted to try it out. So we found, we spoke to NGOs, we invited NGOs, non-profits who needed technology help to write to us. We worked with a bunch of organizations. Vishal has, as I said, traveled all over the place. We built software, we built systems, we patiently worked with them. And there are 2-3 amazing success stories out of it, where an organization with zero technology went to an organization that saves 8 hours a day with a simple tool. So we have some great success stories, but our biggest lesson is that software is actually secondary. Most of these problems are capacity, knowledge, skill problems. You can give someone hardware or software, but if they don't have the capacity to understand it, operate it, maintain it, it doesn't work. So it's not feasible to just give technology to people. Although 3 succeeded, 12 have failed miserably. Great lesson. So that was a project that we ran. But out of this success, we've realized that there are certain non-profit social organizations who do have technical capacity, who just need some hand-holding, some guidance. So that we will continue to do. Again, Abhinav from Zerodha here, I don't know if he's sitting here. He's volunteering. Abhinav's right. Oh my God, that's so ironic. So he's volunteering to build an open source system under the FOSS United umbrella and hand it over to a social organization that's willing to take and run with it. So we're doing those things. And Mon School, we should talk about Mon School.
Please, Janet.
No, few plans going ahead. Yeah. Mon School is a project that was born at FOSS United, so she'll talk about it.
So, I was talking to Abbas, and he has been like working with colleges quite a bit. So maybe your views also on the whole, like how do we take FOSS United ahead, and like generally what you felt? Yeah, Jannat,
well, all my attempts, sorry.
Yeah, so Mon School is a learning platform that aims to teach programming, make it easier to learn without any hassle, without any preconceived notions. So one problem that we're facing at Mon School is that we're not getting enough course creators. But I know we have good number of course creators here itself. So if you feel that you have any knowledge that you can share with others, do come ahead. I don't know what's stopping you, but the team is here to support you in any way you want. So just reach out to me, Vishal, or anyone, and let's get started with it. You want to add something?
We had a speaker, Deepika, from RV College of Engineering, Bangalore. So we had a discussion, so I'm about to, until March, Anand was running this Mon School cohort and different other, supports to the students who are learning through Mon School. Since then, it is, not much active, people, I mean, there are very few engagement over there. So the idea is to kickstart that, post-conference. And maybe we start with, I talked to her, and then, her title was something which said something, she doesn't like the way the education works. So, we thought, we had a long discussion about how we could start something like Mon School, and teach students through Mon School in RV College of Engineering. So yeah, I think this is what, I was thinking to start with. I will, experiment for 1 or 2 months and see how it goes.
Vishal, before we move ahead, can you just mention the incentive for content creators on other course creators?
Yeah, so we have a grant of 1 lakh for the creators, those who are willing to create course on Mon School. So, we have, if you just search mon.school, you'll find the grant page on the nav bar. Yeah.
Abbas, you were...
Risha was asking about our experience working with colleges. Actually, we've been trying to do that for a very long time, around 17, 18 years. There have been successes where there were faculty members who would take ownership and responsibility of doing things. They would be empowered by the college to do those things, and they would do the right thing. But we have also dealt with colleges where we have been speaking with them for 5 years, 7 years, and we've made no headway at all. And they cite bureaucracy and, problems with the modalities of procurement and all that. But the challenge, in my view, the main challenge is involvement of faculty members themselves. Unless there is significant buy-in from faculty members, unless there are enough faculty members who are able to set aside the fact that, maybe they are missing out on so many practical skills at times, and learning those and putting the hard work into learning those could actually make them better teachers or make them more effective at their teaching. Anything that we do from outside is, in my view, it's not going to work, because you are basically infusing energy from outside, but that doesn't get rotated and replenished within the campus. So we had organized a conference along with VTU 4 years back, and we'd invited all the colleges under VTU in Karnataka to attend that one-day seminar on free and open source software for colleges. So I think people from around 75 colleges attended it. And the goal was to give them both an ideological pitch and a technical pitch on how they can integrate free software in teaching and infrastructure, how they can, by the fact that they're trying to do things on their own, how they can use that as a reason to upgrade their skills and inculcate those practical experiences into teaching. Because if I have to teach networking and I administer a network, maybe I'll become better at teaching networks, isn't it? So things like that. If I manage servers, if I manage a lab and I build it myself. So we were trying to talk about those aspects, but a lot of times colleges are more interested in outsourcing those things and being completely hands-off, which is not sustainable because a lot of times they will not be able to pay for outsourcing it. Or, well, you doing something for them is in the sense that you're doing something directly for the students. Students are going to go after a few months or years. And then there is no one to sort of take that effort ahead within the campus. So the whole, I mean, this whole trying to get into colleges, trying to handhold them and explain these things to them, it's very challenging. Like I said, there have been successes where the management of the university or college believed in these things. They believed in having free software on their campuses. But then sometimes when you meet with resistance from people who are actually going to use it and there is no buy-in from them, it fails. So, but I think we should sort of leverage the successes and use that to maybe pitch it to others and inspire them. I think that might help a lot.
So the problem that you're mentioning actually, and from my perspective as a college student right now, is a very real one. The problem most of the times is that faculty themselves either A, don't know how to use these tools, or B, aren't willing to learn how to use these tools. So I feel like a better target vector would be through the students. So I'm a community lead in my college. I do the work of a community lead in my college. We do our level best to get, a FOSS culture established. So I had to resort to, using Maggie to explain how Git works, and things like this really help if you get the students involved directly. So while going with the administration is, from a management perspective, an easier thing to do, I feel like the real longer lasting impact will be if you get to the students directly, right? And you can see that because I'm here, right? So, I mean, getting involved with students directly is a little bit of a slightly more risky proposition because they will leave after some time. So in that sense, engaging more with student communities would help a lot. I think Vishal has been doing some excellent work on that aspect because he reached out to me before, and that's how I got to know about this conference, and that's why I'm here. So I feel like having more connect with the student communities that are there, the Builder communities, the Linux communities. I believe there were Linux user groups in colleges before, but I don't really think that culture has held on and survived the test of time plus the test of the online college effect. But I feel like that would be a great thing to get kickstarted again. So if you folks have some ideas, or if you folks are willing to open discussions on how we can get that culture back, that would be great. Because as someone in a college campus, I want to see that people around me are building and doing things, right? So some of the seniors in my college have been really inspirational towards this, because I know that there is someone out there who I can approach if I have a question, or someone out there who's actually building things and they're bringing things to life. So having that in college is pretty inspirational as well. So if there was a slightly bigger student community connect, I feel like that would make a huge difference.
So I know about something we had done. In 2003, we had some students from PESET who had joined our team, and then they put us in touch with the director, Professor Jawahar, and we went and met him. He said, I said, we want to do something regarding free software in the campus. He said, I'll give you 2 labs, 2 rooms in a lab. You set up your office here, and you work with any student who wants to work with you. You involve them in your own work, you train them, you get them to do things. If you want, you can also help with the college network, and let's see where it goes, right? So he was extremely open about, putting that foot first. I mean, he took that initiative, that we'll give you that thing. So we had, I think, half our team working from PESET. We had 2 rooms, one for students who can come and work there, and one where people who worked along with me would work. And we ran that for about a year. And then I think 2004, I had to close it down because everyone who was working there, they left. So we couldn't sort of sustain that. But that 1 year of this experiment, it had some pretty good results. I don't think we used that opportunity very well. We were not able to translate it.
Would you like a second chance? Because I'm from PS.
PSIT? Yeah. So we had it in the basement, MCA department basement, where you have the server room, or at least it was. We had that two rooms there.
Yeah, so I would be very enthusiastic about helping you folks get this started.
Yeah, so that's a good model. If people set up their own development centers, and if colleges give that sort of an infrastructure to them, a lot of people who are doing work around free software can work out of there, and that makes it easy for them to involve students, maybe faculty members also, but at least you are there as an anchor, right? You can build a resource pool, you can talk about, you can have evening informal conversations maybe, you can talk about practices that students can adopt. I mean, I don't know where it can go, but there is no limit to where it can go. Right? No, Jawahar was very, very enterprising at that time, at least.
I'll quickly make a this about the future. So I think for the next year or so, one of the areas that we'll be working on is public policy. We saw Abhishek Singh, who's the CEO of Digital India, speak yesterday. I think one of the challenges in government is that they have built a ton of open source software. So on OpenForge, you have almost 2016 open source projects, but none of them really have a community around them. It's a question of capacity, so we'll be looking at working with the government to help them create genuine open source projects with communities around them. The government has a lot of good policies, but as with most policies in India, they are on paper. So we have an open source policy, we have an open standard policy, an open API policy, an open data policy. What we'll be doing is maybe taking one or two of these policies and looking at how they can be implemented better. And the third thing is, I think, taking some really lighthouse cases. Maybe we are looking at working with NPCI to open source UPI. So if those kind of things become, that could be India's contribution back to the global open source community. So these are the 2-3 things that we are working on the policy side. Policy is always a game of patience and persistence. So hopefully, in the next year or so, we'll have some good results to show.
Yeah, so we should have a vote of thanks. So I think first, obviously, thank you everybody for coming. Because this event is about meeting people and making connections, and right. So thank you everyone for taking the time on a weekend and coming there. Vishal, the conference manager, we won't say anything more about Vishal, but he's been outstanding, except the fact. And I am personally not aware of every volunteer who's been helping, but there is Devdutt there. There are like the Zerodha team has been outstanding. All the printing stuff has been done by Zerodha team. The whole the sound and the AV systems and the video, all coordinated by the Zerodha team. So awesome work. I think the amazing paintings that have been out there. A lot of them have also been made, and they have been on the registration desk running mics. So I think, amazing stuff.
We have FOSS and Vivek for the community partnership and multiple roles, other roles.
Absolutely. If we name volunteers, we may miss out, but this was a fully volunteer-run event. Everything from logistics to painting to pin boards to absolutely everything. The website, CFPs, communication.
CFPs and schedules.
Absolutely everything.
Vinay
Everyone.
and Vishnu, they are sitting in the corner there, but these guys need a lot of appreciation. So
he was also caterer. He was also part of caterer.
Here's to the volunteers.
Yeah, the food was really good, and you were caterer as well for some time. So
I
he was helping us scaling,
serving people, and outstanding stuff.
No, absolutely volunteer run. Every aspect of it, from pin to needle to catering to projection to website to absolutely everything. All volunteers.
Please do leave feedback on our Telegram group, Twitter, or wherever you are, social media.
And finally, I thank you to the sponsors who covered the cost for the event.
Frappe, GitHub, Hasura, JustPay, Zerodha, Together, and Capillary Tech.
Thanks,
thanks to the video guys. The video guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Sound team, they are sleeping there. But and also the staff at Nemans, if you guys are here. So thanks for hosting us.
We'll see you all next year. And we're planning to have a hackathon, probably a hybrid model. Sorry? Yeah, a hybrid, like I said. People who don't want to join. Okay, so we'll do a hackathon probably in February next year. So, yeah, and yeah, just one last note: do volunteer. At whatever capacity you have, time you have, either monthly meetups or design, or somebody came here for the design. So, yep, that would be awesome for to help us grow.
Yeah, so, yeah. So something that's been bugging me again. Davap?
Special thanks to Anand. He's been like the backbone of this event. He set up the talks, curated all of them.
Open sessions, hardware, expo area.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think frankly, I didn't do much. I mean, I will take credit for one thing that I've done. If you had that idea in the morning, that's great, goes to me. Okay, that's something that I take full credit for. Okay. Yeah. So sorry, I want to kind of hijack again and talking about diversity and lack of women participation. I want to kind of so one thing that I suggest is like next monthly meetup. Okay, can you kind of hand over leading that to a woman, right? Until women find someone to kind of lead it, let's not do the next event, okay, right? I mean, so the point is, I think we just kind of half-heartedly like try to get women speakers, etc. I don't think it works. I mean, let's kind of give the stage to find someone who is ready to run it, okay? Saying that next monthly meetup, it has to someone has to run it, okay? Let them figure out how to get more women. I mean, I don't think men here understand what are the challenges, etc. We just like half-heartedly try to kind of leave a word, can you come and speak, and then we'll forget about it. I think let's kind of give the stage to someone to run. I mean, if any one of you want to kind of run the next monthly meetup for FOSS United, please come forward, okay? I'm asking all the women here, okay? Please see if you can come and do that. I think it's going to be really wonderful to improve women participation in monthly meetups and also going forward for all the events of FOSS United.
In case you haven't joined our Telegram group, thank you everybody one last time.
We need monthly meetups in different places all across India.
Yeah.